All right, everybody, welcome to the Love and Truth podcast. I am James Nelson along with my beautiful wife.
Lene.
And listen, we're excited about this show.
Yeah.
This is where we have real conversations, real truth, and we just talk about real issues that people are dealing with in real life. And so we're excited about this particular episode because this particular story is what we call a real life straw
A
story.
real life straw story.
A mother's journey of love, professional balance, and just the struggles with everyday parenting. And so, welcome our guest, Mrs. Nasha Ross,
Thank
to
you.
the to the episode here.
Yes.
Yeah, we're excited to have her on the show. Listen, you got the fit is looking
Come on, come on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this,
I'm trying
and
to
this is
match you.
always. And this is always.
always.
Always,
You
yes.
walked in, it's like I just feel just regular over here.
No, you all look great, and thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for the invite.
Right.
Good. So why don't we get into just a quick bio, and then we're gonna jump right into this topic because
Okay. Let's
we got a
dive.
few things that we want to cover off on today, and just a dynamic woman. And I just want to get into the conversation. So let's go through the quick bio.
So I am ready to read this bio because this is an exhaustive, extensive, and wonderful bio about this wonderful woman. Her influence spans a wide range of platforms, from keynote speaking at the University of Houston's Women of Gold event to participating as a panelist for Alpha Phi Alpha's Talented Teenth Initiative. Her voice has been welcomed in corporate boardrooms, churches, universities, and virtual conferences nationwide. In recognition of her impact, the city of Houston officially declared July 24th as Nasha Ross Day, baby.
All right.
As a content creator, Nasha continues to inspire others with her authenticity and practical wisdom. Her messages for parenting, purpose, and perseverance have helped women and families around the world feel seen, supported, and strengthened. Nasha is a dynamic leader, accomplished engineer,
Come on now.
devoted mother, inspiring author,
Yes.
and passionate advocate for community empowerment.
Yes.
Born in Shape, Belgium, and raised as both a military child and preacher's kid, her life has been deeply rooted in faith, resilience, and service.
Come on now.
These values have shaped her into a woman of purpose, strength, and authenticity. With over 20 years of experience in engineering field, Nasha has thrived in a male-dominated industry, breaking barriers and mentoring the next generation of leaders, especially young women and minorities in STEM. A proud alumni of Prairie View A&M University,
All
she
right.
holds a bachelor's in electrical engineering technology and dual master's degrees in business administration and human resource management. She's also a founding member of her firm's Black Employee Network, where she champions equity and inclusion. Nasha is the visionary behind Blessed Incorporated, a nonprofit organization focused on empowering communities through outreach, education, and collaboration. She is also a two-time author.
Okay.
Most recently co-writing It's Not Me, It's My ADHD with her son, Cameron, offering insight and encouragement to families navigating life with neurodivergent children.
All right.
All right. All right.
How do you do all of that? Come on,
All of
give it
that.
up.
Come
give it
on.
up.
Come on.
Come on.
I had to really say,
Whoa.
is that me?
That's
Yeah.
you. That was all you.
Is that
You've
me?
done a lot.
Uh-huh.
It's still doing it, and it's all God.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah.
And people say all God, and that sounds like that's just a
Cliche.
phrase to
Cliche.
say, cliche.
Yeah.
But it is all God. From the moment that I wake up in the morning to night, I start off with just praying, thank you, God, for just waking me up, giving me the strength for the day. There's no movement, there's no decision, there's no room that I enter without the direction of God. And when I have tried to, He set me right down.
Yeah.
And made me start over.
Yes.
Allowed me to fall to get built back up. So it's all God.
Amen.
So before we get into this deeper, I want you to please give us where our viewers can find you on social media, and then about the books. Please tell them where they can find the books so that they can order those.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I am a two-time author. So, the first book was written years ago, elementary age. So, it's called My Village. So, if you are a single parent, this talks about how to raise a child with the village when it's not the typical, what they say is a normal family meeting, whether it's your grandmother, your grandfather, two moms, two dads, whether it's an uncle, whether it's a pastor. This book gives scenarios that shows where the village stepped in the absence of a parent. And it's the thing is, you still have a normal family, you have a village, it's just a different dynamic setup. So this covers that. This book can be purchased if you contact me directly. My handles are on Instagram and on Facebook and also on TikTok, Evolve with Nasha. And then the second book, which I'm truly honored about this book here, is called It's Not Me, It's My
Love that.
ADHD.
Yeah.
And it was written with my son, Cameron Brodnax. He was 14 years old when we started this. And this was one of the tools that we used to navigate through ADHD. And this can be found on Barnes and Nobles. And it is a wonderful tool to say we don't use ADHD as an excuse in our household, and that we have different scenarios to show you how to navigate through it, different things you can implement and change. And of course, this is elementary age. With ADHD, elementary is one thing, middle school is another thing, and high school is a different stage. So it's all these different stages, and there is not one right solution. But this just gives you some tips here, so you can find this on Barnes and Nobles.
All
Awesome.
right.
Come on now.
Yes.
Two-time author.
All right.
Listen,
Dual masters. I
I'm
love all of
impressed.
it.
I'm totally honored
Yes.
Thank
to
you.
be on the set
Yeah.
with you, just a dynamic, woman of God, two women of God here, obviously, but just certainly focusing on all the things that you've done.
Yeah.
So we've gone through the bio, right?
Yep.
So I want to go back a little bit, and so how did you and Lene meet,
Yes.
and where were you at that point in your life?
Let's talk about
Yeah.
it. So I met Lene, and I still say Tanya, but Lene, and you often hear me say boss lady. So that's boss
Yeah.
lady. But I came into AT&T as a what they call a hire off the streets, meaning we typically hire inside, but we brought you in saying we're going to give you the sink or swim test. We're going to see if you can just get out here and if you can make it. And she was on the team with me.
Okay.
And
But she was, let's be clear, she was my boss.
Okay.
I didn't want to say that. Okay.
Let's go.
I'll let you say that. I was her boss.
Uh-huh.
And so actually, let me say something. I always had a fear of public speaking. So on that first day, I got put up in front of a group to talk. That team was like, we've already had 10 different bosses. Everyone got fired. They left. Or we scared them. Here I am, like, I'm this little force to be reckoned with. And I'm like, but I have to learn my skills first.
Yeah.
People assume because you're an engineer, you know how to do anything and everything.
Right.
Every job has to train you differently how to do that job. And that's what people have the whole misconception. If it's an engineer, come fix this light, come do this. You don't learn all that in school.
Right.
Typically, it's hands-on. So Lene was one on the team. Number one, let me just say this. It was all guys. She ran circles around those guys. And she, on the KPIs, off the charts. Couldn't touch her. And so you would think like as a black female to female, a lot of times like she's the boss. You don't want to train the boss. A lot of the guys were like, we don't want a female here, let alone another manager. She took me in. I have to say thank you. I love you for that. She trained me. I went to the field with her, and she had no clue in that time what I was dealing with in my home life with ADHD, with going through. I had a wonderful relationship, wonderful, and it was a split. It led to domestic violence. You had no clue I was dealing with that at that time.
Did not.
And so my whole family at that point, literally in 1 second, divided. So now here I am, like I'm a single mom, and I didn't even have time to process it because I had to work to provide. I had to make sure that my son was okay. I didn't have my daughter at the time, but that was our priority to make sure that my son was fine. And on top of that, I remember praying and saying, give me a boss who knows God. And that's why I learned that when you pray about things, you have to be specific. You got to write out a list.
Yeah.
Because
this
A
conversation.
list.
I'd had a boss that knew God, was actually the adjutant and everything to the pastor. But when I asked to be at the top so that I could show what leadership looks like in a different manner, I wasn't specific enough. I'll just leave it at that. And so she helped me to navigate through that process. One thing I believe is I don't like titles and stuff. Your team is how you get successful. You learn from your team. And so I'm forever grateful for you because, again, you opened up doors for me unknowingly. And you pushed me to levels that I didn't even know I could do. You challenged me mentally with things I didn't know I could even accomplish. So I want to say thank you publicly and give you your roses. That's why I brought your roses today.
Thank
Come
you.
on.
I don't want to be at no
Aw,
funeral time out
baby.
here, but thank
Oh.
you.
Okay, I'm trying not to cry. Y'all know I start crying.
Crying in a minute. Get some tissue
Yeah.
ready.
I did. Yeah. Thank you. I
But you know
appreciate
what's interesting about that. So we were just having a conversation this morning, as a matter of fact, about being specific,
that.
Right.
Yeah.
right? When you're praying or you're making, declarations or affirmations, you got to be specific. And then also we were at one of my high school friends and fraternity brothers. I'm an alpha.
Nice.
His father passed away, and so we went to the services on yesterday, and the pastor priest is a Catholic. So what are they? Are they priest, bishop,
Yeah,
um,
he's a priest.
priest? He was delivering a message, and so as we walked in, he was talking about this list.
Yes.
Like literally, he was talking
Yes.
about
Wow, that's
a list.
profound.
He says,
Yes.
and I believe he was a because my frat brother and friend, he's a sergeant,
Oh,
and so he was talking
With
about traffic
HPD.
accidents,
right.
right? He says, and oftentimes as they're investigating,
Mm-hmm.
they at a high percentage find list that people have in a car. Hey, go to the store,
Yes.
pick up the kids, and there's something on that list that they didn't get to do because of that accident because it was a fatality.
Yeah.
So he just likened that to we have this list. We have a list with God. God, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, just you saying that, just really a
Yeah.
confirmation around that. So I want to go a little bit deeper. Like
Sure.
I'm an interviewer and a question.
I'm all
I got
for it.
questions, right? So at that time, how old was your son?
My son was, ooh, he may have been in the first or second grade.
And are we asking when she found out
No, no,
that?
no, no. I'll
Oh,
get to all that.
oh,
Let me
okay.
cook over here.
Okay, okay,
Let him
cook,
cook.
baby.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm just trying to follow with you.
this is what I try. I build the story, right?
Build
I'm
the
trying
story,
I'm
baby.
trying to walk people through the process, right?
Right.
So when y'all met,
Mhm.
you say he was first grade or so.
Well, when I was dated this guy, it was before my son was born. So that's when my son knows
Okay,
it's his father. He's been
okay,
around him since he's been 4 months.
okay. That's what I was trying to
Yes.
get to,
Okay.
Uh-huh.
right? So that relationship, because I was going to pivot into
Uh-huh.
um, that relationship
Mm-hmm.
you were in at that time, because you just mentioned that Lene didn't know
Mm-hmm.
what you were going through,
Right.
and then she is so sweet. She's such a
She
sweet
is.
little.
You got a true gem.
I got a good one.
You won.
I'm
Oh, I
winning.
love
I
y'all.
won, but I'm winning still.
Winning. Yes.
Um,
Thank you.
and so kind of what really, because this is Love and Truth podcast.
Uh-huh.
We
Yeah.
talk
We
about
can talk about it.
relationship things, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, kind of no deep details, but just kind of generally speaking, I heard you say you were in a domestic situation
Mm-hmm.
with your son,
Mm-hmm.
whom he knew to be his father.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was that like? And how are you balancing that? I heard you say you had a new job,
Mm-hmm.
new team,
Yep.
a bunch of men,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
one black female.
Yes.
I'm just trying to understand where your mindset was at that time
Mm-hmm.
and the challenges that you were really, really dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And just speak to that.
Let's see. To speak to that, at that time, it was like a death, but the person was still alive, because a lot of people want you to say a person that put their hands on them was a horrible person. I can't honestly say
Hmm.
that. What I will say is that I was not knowledgeable about mental health
Okay.
issues. And the crazy part is, I worked at United Behavioral Health with mental health patients daily before I had my son, and I didn't even recognize it in the home, the
Mm.
mental piece of it. So I later learned what that mental part was, but what that looked like. Okay, we had 3 incidents, and I remember going to church, and it wasn't like people, when you say you had abuse, they think you got knocked out and all the worst and everything. It wasn't that, but abuse is how I look at
Yes.
it. It's like,
Right.
so that was just zero tolerance, and so I forgive him, but I had to let that go. And trying to explain that to a first or second grader, it was hard. So I didn't have time to process what I was
Right.
dealing with,
Yeah.
because my son acted out, ripped stuff off the walls, the ADHD intensified. And you have to remember, at that time, we just were identifying what ADHD was and that he had
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
you know? And so that was a whole thing where I didn't get a chance to process that. But God, again, is always at the forefront. And when I prayed that prayer, I said, "You do what you have to do to make the situation how you see it fit to be." And
Right.
when I left church that Sunday, that was the episode. And that's where it had to end. And so I took the time to focus on my son and not myself. And then later on, I came back to healing, dealing with myself.
No, that's. And I'm gonna let you
That's
jump in too,
powerful.
um, because this is exactly where I wanted to go with that. Because I was trying to get the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't know how old your son was and
Mm-hmm.
then what the relationship was. I wanted. That's why I thank you for sharing. I wanted to get
Mm-hmm.
kind of timeline and dynamics.
Right.
So this is going on. You had just received, or the diagnosis was. How did the diagnosis come about? Like what was
So
happening?
that's funny. So To be honest with you, like I seen different signs, but I'm a preacher's kid, so we get that oil, we grease up with that
Yeah.
forehead.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, you got a cross on your door. Your mama been praying. So, we get so strong on the oil. So here's my thing: what happens when the oil is not working? So I did diet, I did vegan stuff, we did no medication, we did herbs. I tried everything not to say he has the diagnosis and he needs medication. And I remember going to child support court with his father. And when you go to child support court, you're sitting on a bench and they keep moving people as they call you up, and y'all
Yeah,
keep getting shifted
right.
closer and closer. Well, we ended up sitting next to each other. Mind you, I didn't talk to the man, don't talk to him at all or anything. And he's like, I got a check for Junior. And I'm like, a check
What?
for Junior? Which that's Cameron's brother.
Right.
So I guess he gets a check because he has ADHD. And so that's what he was trying to tell me. So that was the first revelation of maybe it's something. And then we had issues in the daycare as to where when Cameron was 3 or 4, they gave him work of like first and second grade because it kept him to be on task. And he also dealt with abuse in that daycare. As a
Okay.
result of before they figured out what it was,
What
his
was going on?
behavior,
Yeah.
they squeezed his head and they pinched him under his armpits. So when I was bathing him, I noticed these marks. And it's what they did at the daycare. So those was the original revelation. And again, as a male, my partner at that time was like, "Oh, we don't do medication. Let me handle it today. He'll be fine tomorrow." So I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." So you get to school, and by 8 o'clock, that phone call, "Hey, Cameron doing this.
Exactly.
You got to come." And so the biggest misconception is because it's a single parent. And what I was letting you know too is like if you go into these groups and watch, I would tell you that there is 90% of families that are married that have more issues than single parents because the father says, "I don't believe in ADHD and my child's not taking medication." So they're biting, they're fighting, they're hitting, they're this. And it's not because of how many parents are in the household or the village. You have to retrain your brain how to work with them, is what I had to learn through therapy.
Okay.
That's good.
Go ahead. You got a question? Because I can just go on and on.
Okay.
He's ready.
Well, you and I spoke, and one of the reasons why I'm really loving what we're talking about right now is because just like you and I know, a lot of people don't believe in ADHD. They don't believe in ODD. They don't believe in any of that. They just believe the kid is bad, and that's not always the case.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm promised. I'm you're my mom, and I've had to see my mom deal with my brother
Yes.
this exact disorder. And when my husband and I were talking, we've been talking about this, but we really, obviously delve into it a little bit deeper last night for today. But he was like, I can see, because I said I have all of these notes. I said, but I don't really need to use it because I can identify.
Yeah.
Wow. Powerful.
And you never
I never
knew
knew.
that.
Yeah.
So when you were talking to me about your son, it's like, well, I already know everything.
Yeah.
And that was crazy because, oftentimes like you may be like, man, oftentimes we're like when we have certain assignments.
Yes. Assignments. Yep.
When we have certain assignments, God gives those assignments to us because he knows while you're going through all of that training, everything, and James is going to ask you obviously some more questions, and I don't want to jump ahead, but in that training, you come to a moment like this, and now it's profitable. Everything
yes.
you went through,
Yeah.
because now people are getting to hear, well, wait a minute, I'm going through that right now. I didn't want to believe that, the diagnosis because I'm a Christian, I'm a believer.
Yes.
Come on, we got to get past that.
That part.
We're people, and there are real things that are happening. There are diagnoses about things that are real, whether people want to believe that or not. But it's best to believe it and deal with it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then give God the glory, and let's still give
Amen.
with Thanksgiving. Let's do that
That's
with
right.
Thanksgiving. So, okay, baby, what's
No,
next?
no. What's next?
What's
No.
next?
So we've got the diagnosis, and I'm just gonna say this too to echo this in our culture. We just like hey, put the blood, oil, pray about it,
Yes.
and then we're done with it. Not
Yes.
realizing that there could be some, mental or emotional, chemical,
Right.
Imbalance.
Right.
Yeah.
imbalances
Right.
that are going on. Like when
Neurological issues.
I remember before my wife and I got together, and I'd been married, divorced, I was engaged, and we hadn't talked for about almost 10 years. And so I got to a stage where I was like, yeah, probably need to go to counseling. This is me.
Wow.
Nobody was saying go to counseling. And I said, I think my friend had told me that him and his wife were going to counseling. They referred me to their counselor, therapist, or whatever. I said, well, I'm going to set an appointment.
Right.
And so I told my mom, I said, yeah, I'm going to therapy or counseling. She said, boy, when you going to that? What's wrong with you? I
Yes.
mean, that's just the response. It's like,
That is the response.
That is. It's still the response.
what, you think you crazy? I'm like,
Yes.
no, mom, I'm just trying to work through some things. Like, there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with going to counseling.
It's not.
So,
Right.
so for people that don't know, and you can kind of give a Reader's Digest version, kind of what is ADHD and then ODD?
Okay.
And then we're going to pivot into something else after. Just I want to
Yeah.
lay that
Just lay
definition
that out.
foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first I want to say thank you because when I spoke to you about it, you didn't judge. And I know that sounds small, but there's a huge society of men and women that can't talk about this
Right.
because the things that you may say, whether it's good, bad, anger, you can't say it to others without them thinking that you're crazy. So
Right.
thank you for not judging me and understanding me when I talk to you. And then thank you for being a representation of men that go to therapy because most men don't think that that's okay. So ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So pretty much what that's saying is a person's going to struggle with focus. They may have behavior issues. Now, their area of high focus is something that they're highly interested in or engaged in. But when you pair it with ODD, which a lot of people haven't paired together, that's where you'll see like defiant behavior. Sometimes they may not respect authority or different things they may act out. But what I will say is, if you read online, you're going to see all the negatives. So I had to remove myself from some of those groups because I lived through it. I've watched my son go from that to now this.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I want to be on this podcast to show people that it was very challenging. It still is has its challenges. It's just a different level. We're at college level. But I had to unlearn, I would say, how to parent and how to parent a different way. And so typically people are not equipped with the tools, the resources. A lot of the people that I mentor, they don't even know what it is, and people will say, you just like your uncle, just like the grandfather. They always was this or that. And nobody really goes to find out what it is. And so what they do is they fail students. They consider them bad. But it was the opposite with Cameron. I remember in elementary, the teacher told me, your son is sitting in a classroom. He needs a special school. He said, he's sitting here looking to build the company to hire the entire class while they're sitting saying, how can I make $40,000 a year? There's nothing wrong with $40,000 a year, but what he was saying is your son's brain is so far outside the box, that he needs to be somewhere else. So that's why we had to challenge him and move him to different levels. Because what happens is if they're not challenged, they get into stuff.
Yes.
And it's the same thing like with the music. We put him into band. His band teacher said he's never even read music before or had training. I said no. He just picks it up naturally.
Yeah.
His basketball coach says he can look at the play, memorize, done, and execute. So it's not always a negative to it. So you have to highlight the positives as well. So that's why I want to stand here to say there are some positives. Yes, it's been some rough times. I won't lie on that at all. But we navigated and implemented tools. And what that took was being present, being an advocate, not just for my son, but for every parent that couldn't take off of work, didn't have a flexible job, didn't know what their rights were, and an IEP of 504. I said right there, I threaten districts, I will sue you. When I sit on these different boards in the community, you're networking with people. It's because you can make those phone calls and you can get stuff done right away. That's not the purpose of it, because my purpose is to serve. But a part of doing that too, you have those different connections as well. So
Have access.
yeah,
Hey,
have
listen,
access.
shout out to Cameron, man. He's at PV.
Yes.
19-year-old young
Yes.
man. I just met him
Yes.
earlier. Just
Yeah.
nice little drip. But but to speak to, hey, how he continues to evolve, and the fact that y'all co-authored a book together, just the mental awareness and just awareness of, hey, yeah, I'm dealing with something, but you know what, I'm working to overcome that. So salute to you for being a parent that
Thank you.
recognized it and took action, right?
Take action. That's the key.
This wasn't on my question list, but I thought I heard you say a few minutes ago that he has a brother,
He does. He actually has several brothers.
several,
Okay.
through
He has
his
six.
father.
He has
Okay.
6. So when Cameron was probably in middle school, I got a contact and they reached out and said he has 6 brothers actually.
Okay.
Never met them, never seen them. His father seen him when he was 2 months old, and that's it.
Okay.
But then I thought I heard you say that he said, oh, his brother has something. Did I hear that?
His father in court. When I got to court with his biological
His
father,
biological.
when we ended up sitting next to each other,
Right.
said, hey, I get a check for Junior. And he was specifying that that check was for ADHD. Because Junior, when I won't say date his father, was with his father. Um, Junior had like 10 different daycares, always getting moved, always something going on, always
Okay,
in
when you say
trouble.
junior, who?
That's
Junior's his brother.
Oh, his brother. I'm saying. Okay,
Yes.
so he's got a brother through his
Real
father.
father.
Yeah.
Real
Yeah.
father.
Yes.
Okay, got. I'm
So
just trying to.
Junior was the only one I know out of the six.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when he's mentioned that in court, that was also an indicator
trigger.
for me to
Right.
be like, hey, maybe it is something deeper.
Correct.
And so I took that and still also, like, besides just doing the prayer and everything else, and I have a whole list of what I did. I even became a doctor, a pharmacist. And I'm not lying. They were like, Miss Ross, you're not supposed to do that. But
A nutritionist.
nutritionist. I remember writing out charts like when they gave him different medications. One weekend I spent $700 in a weekend because medication is expensive with insurance, and I was so stressed because although I had a good job, a single mom, that's a lot of money.
Correct.
So I got charts and started mapping out each medication all times of day. And I would write out what he was doing, how he was doing, and have the teachers give me feedback. They probably did not like the extra work, but I wanted to pinpoint it down to what's working and what's not. So that was
Yes.
one of my remedies that I did to figure that out.
Oh, can I say this? Is
Yes.
that engineering
That
Yes.
is.
mind?
That
That's
is.
an
It
engineering
is.
mind right
It
there.
is.
That's straight up
Yes.
engineer right there.
Yeah.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And so when I couldn't afford to keep buying the medication, the girl that did my hair, her son had ADHD, and she's like, just get to school so he can get out of my head because it's a lot, it's a lot at home. And she had the medication for free through what's the government programs, whatever. So she gave me some of her pills, and I started to switch the capsules and change the dosages, and I started doing it myself because the doctors just want you to come in and pay a copay and pay for medication and all these other
Right.
fees when you get home. So I started to redistribute. I'm a pharmacist. I'm
So
Yeah.
straight up, I'm just
Yeah.
like
and that's how I found
whipping
what
it up.
worked. But then he started to tell me the side. We found one that worked, and then he started saying it was giving side effects. So it's funny because I'm now about to be 44, and at the age of 42, I actually said prescribe me the medication for focus. It's not that I was diagnosed with ADHD, but I wanted to see what he was saying. Like, it doesn't make me feel right. I don't like this because a lot of times I was angry and I'm like, why are you not taking this medicine? It helps because when you took that medicine, you went to school and it was like, oh yeah, this is a different person. And so I didn't understand, but I took the medicine, and I would say I told him, I said, Cameron, I said by 10 o'clock, all my work at work was done, literally. But within a week, headaches, just different
Yeah.
symptoms. I'm sorry. And so you sympathize with them as to what he was going through with those different
Right.
medications that we were trying, and so we had to find other ways to navigate outside of that too. So
Oh my
I
goodness.
applaud you
Oh
for
my
that.
God.
I have never heard in my whole 51 years of life, and let's lessen that down because I wouldn't have understood
Right.
at a certain age, but I've never heard anybody go as far, and this is love, so that you could relate. That's what Jesus
Yeah.
did to us. He knew
Yes.
what our infirmities were, so he was tested just like we were,
Yes.
but without sin. However,
Yeah.
never heard anybody do that before. And so this is what I'm talking about, another level. And you are definitely, I know right now you're making impact, and I know that this was your assignment. It had to go every single way that it went,
It
the
did.
good, bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
Now,
It did.
I don't want to jump ahead of you, but I have a question.
No, go ahead. We gonna flow.
How because we talked about the first relationship, and you did away with that, and I applaud you for being a solid woman, a woman of wisdom, to say, you know what, I don't want violence in my home.
Yeah.
Okay, so I applaud you for that.
Lost my best friend, and that was like a funeral.
It was.
Yeah, death.
It was. And,
It was.
and when the loss of a relationship normally is. But how has it been attempting to navigate through a relationship, and then you have, a son that, ha- seemingly, what you're going through with him, right?
Yeah.
But people don't know that until they really get up close and personal. How do you navigate through that?
Okay, so first, when it comes to dating, I don't allow people to meet my children unless I know this is going to be something solid.
Right.
So there have been people that they have met, it did not work, but I do keep that very shielded But the first thing is a lot of times, and first let me acknowledge this is Mental Health Awareness Month. So thank you all for
Yes.
doing this
Yes.
topic throughout this month because it's relevant. And there's a lot of people that are silent at home, and I want you to know you're not alone. You have a village supporting you. But with dating, I recall there's a guy that's been trying to date me for years, and he's just like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "I'm healing." And when I say healing, I'm not healing from my son because again, Cameron's turned around a lot of those behaviors. So let me give you an example. In elementary, you may have had every other day, and then the medication took it to every other month, and then as he got older, every other 3 months, six
Quarter,
months,
yeah.
quarter. So it switches. It's not like every day is horrible, but sometimes that one episode can make you forget all of the good that happened,
progress that's
the
happened.
progress that's happened. So you have to forgive, repent, and undo a whole lot of stuff to bring it back to
Right.
let's go forward. But the guy says, "How long is it going to take you to heal?" And I was like, the nerve. Because you have to think about it. Not only did I deal with the death of that relationship, I dealt with another relationship that failed. I dealt with the loss of a child. Then I dealt with the loss of my friend. And so, on top of all of that, even helping a child to navigate through grieving and all that kind of stuff too, I just really like, dating is cool, it's fun, but I'm a mom that really says my kids come first.
Yeah.
And people like, oh, this sounds great, wonderful, whatever, but they don't really, when you get into it, they don't understand what that means. That means that sometimes you're not going to be a priority because they are my priority.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that too is just like the judgment. Even with friends, like just say with an ADHD child when they're on punishment, it may be something like if you punish your child, you may say they're going to get 6 months. Their minds doesn't go as far as like past 2 weeks or 3 weeks of punishment. They're like, I don't care about the game anymore.
Right.
I don't care about this. So some friends would be like, oh, he wouldn't be playing ball or he wouldn't be doing this. And I'm like, but you don't understand how their brains operate. So I know what I'm doing. And so that's why I say there's a lot of people that are silent and don't talk about it because when you talk about it, you get judged. People have all these opinions and formulate stuff. And it's like, you have no clue what it's even like to live and to deal with it, and that we're working through it and making strides. It's just judgment. So
Yeah.
dating again, it's an obstacle. I think the right person will come at the right time in God's timing.
Yeah.
I have dated and had a relationship recently. It ended up coming to an end, and again, there was not even an understanding of what was going on at the time when we did have an episode. And so for me, I just take it as that what the person wasn't meant for me. I don't look at it like, oh, you messed this. No, and it may have been moments where I may have been upset and been like, man, you messed this up. But no, that wasn't for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You jump right in there with the dating because I did want to ask about that and so when you were talking about the relationships and I don't know if you want to talk about our journal because we created a journal, the Love and Truth Journal, and
Nice.
what it really is about is number one, creating a safe space in a
Yeah.
relationship. In fact, we're working on our curriculum right now, our safe space blueprint. But this Love and Truth Journal is about how do you create a safe space in a relationship, right?
Right.
Um, how do you deal with childhood traumas and family dynamics, right? And it's a prompting journal.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really about asking questions when you're in a relationship or getting to know someone. We just have a few prompted questions that you should be asking,
Ahead
right?
of
To
time.
get ahead of time or during, right?
Or
While you're
during,
while
yes.
you're in it, right?
Yeah.
And then past relationships, right? It's like broken up into 3 seconds: childhood traumas and family dynamics, past relationships. Have you unpacked all of that before you get into your next
Yeah.
relationship?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the questions here, it's so uncover insights, heal wounds, and discover patterns that shape your love today, right? That's one of the sections.
Yeah.
And so
That's
one of
good.
the exploring past relationships, um, were there any toxic behaviors you noticed in your past relationship? That's a rhetorical question, but it's a question in a journal
Uh-huh.
for
Yeah.
you to ask yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So self-aware,
Yes.
self-identify,
Yeah.
and then also with your partner,
Mm-hmm.
these are questions you can ask each other.
Yeah.
Hey, was there something that you noticed
Right.
toxic in your last relationship? What was it? Because you know what? It might be something that's happening in this relationship, but you
Yes.
don't even know it.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
I
I
agree.
just want to touch on that. Maybe you have
No,
anything on
that's
that?
Oh,
no,
that's
no, no.
great.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to you guys that have ordered, it's a digital copy. For those of you that don't know, But those of you that have ordered, we want to tell you thank you, and let us know how it's helping you. Give us some feedback. What's something that we could add? We don't know everything. That's why we have people in our lives. Okay, but it should be coming across the screen right now. Order your digital copy. For those of you that do not know, a digital copy is basically printable. You can order it, download it right then, and start your healing process that day.
Yep. Good, good, good. Okay, cool. So Survivor, I mean, like you're Superwoman. I think this is
You
two
are.
segments. This probably two
No,
episodes, honestly. You got to come
for
back.
real, you do have to come back. I was thinking that, baby.
No,
It's the real life
it's the
straw.
real
The
life
real
story.
life
The
straw.
real life story. That's why we listen. Real
I
life
love the
straw.
title.
Have you seen the movie by the
I
way?
have.
Okay.
And when I watched it, I seen myself in
I was
so
gonna
many of
ask
those
you that.
scenarios.
Yeah.
And the only difference that I seen is that I didn't always have the support to bring me back, but I know God. And so when I got to that edge and just was like, I can't take no more today, then I always had God or something that I could bring myself back.
Yeah.
And that was self taught through God, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was the difference. But I mean, I definitely can relate. I've pulled in and had 20 different things happen wrong. Because again, being a female engineer and black, you deal with hostile work environments, bullying, harassment, you name it under the sun, along with just life. And then you pull home and you're like, oh, I'm finally home, my place of peace. And then you get in the house and it's hot and your whole AC's out. And you're like, I know this is going to be about 20,000. And I've had those days where I'm just like, this is my last straw. And then I get an email from the school saying, Cameron did. And I'm like, oh my God. So
Just one on top of the other.
every person's 1 second away from a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
And because this is a subject that's so bottled in because of embarrassment, it's not even embarrassment because I'm not embarrassed. I'm transparent, but a lot of people are embarrassed.
Right.
Shame.
It's shame.
And they
Yes.
don't talk to
Yes.
someone.
Yeah.
So you got people on the edge that are on their last straw sitting right next to you and your family, friends. I was looking at the stats on it. It said there's 17 million, just 3 to 17 ages. And in adults, I think it was like 15 million. And I'm like, ADHD, like people think it's fake. No, it's real and it's diagnosis, but a lot of people are not treating it. And if you're not treating it, you have to implement the tools to navigate through it, to come off of the medication, to do certain things. And that's where people go wrong because they don't know and they just get lazy. And that's where I'm like, nope, not mine. Whatever
Yeah.
it takes to do. And that's where my
Yeah.
time is, even when I'm saying I don't have time to date. I'm looking at different things we can do to navigate through the phases. And this is the phase we're in. What's college now? How do we get through college? What's necessary? What accommodations are needed? And so those are the things that my focus is on.
Okay.
Yeah, and we really have to get past the stigmas,
The stigmas,
Right.
yeah.
especially in our community. And then we're so, you know, religious sometimes and faith based, and we don't deal with there's still science involved. And the
Correct.
faith
Yeah.
has to be
Right.
in all things,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Believe in the right
Yes.
doctors, believe in the right medication. You went through testing, and hey, I'm going to take this for my son,
Yeah.
so I can figure out. Okay, now I see the side effects, and
Yeah.
now I can empathize with him,
Yes.
and I'm
Yeah.
not responding out of that. So, um, so did this lead you to focus on kind of educating parents, teachers about ADHD and just how to? Because I keep hearing you say, hey, you got to go through a process and you got to understand, you got to educate yourself. So
Yeah.
did this lead you to that? And what stages have you spoken on about this?
Let's see. So I do speak on different platforms, but as far as the school districts, only in elementary, I had the principal Sherry Dunlap, and I want to give a shout out to her. She's a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority,
Okay.
and her team and her they worked with us, and a lot of the things you see in this book, they took the time to implement cool off cards, different methods to see how to work through and bring him back without having to say, come pick him up. So there's a lot of people I have to thank, and I want to make sure I do that. But I will say with the schools, I had to even threaten to sue the school district when he got to middle school because I've walked in and seen my child being harassed by the teacher. And one of my rules, and like I tell him, if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. And I'm going to have your who's ever back. So that teacher was literally like targeting him, taunting him.
Yeah.
And so I knew that. And when I came up there, I just so happened to walk in and she was doing it in the middle. And I remember when I left, when the girls told Cameron, she didn't say that when your mom was here because I addressed it, but I scheduled a meeting with the art team. She's a part of that team. And I remember setting that up strategically because she thought I was coming in to talk about Cameron. and I didn't want to address her publicly in that classroom. But when we got in that room at that table, I sat right next to her just like this, and I scooted right to the edge of my seat. And she's had her folder, professional. Oh, let's talk about Cameron. Let's pull this out. I said, no, sweetheart, I'm here to talk about you. I said, he's a kid, but I'm a grown woman. And if you ever disrespect my child or any other child, and the whole team starts, whoa, 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 hold on, hold on. And I'm like, no, someone has to be there to say, I see what you're doing. It's not right. And I'm not going to stand for it. Now, if he is wrong, y'all can call my cell phone anytime. You can text me. And Cameron will tell you, I worked from his classroom several days on my laptop. When he decided he wanted to be tardy to class and different things, I brought that laptop and they said, Cameron's mom, Cameron's mom. He's back. Here I am. And that's what it took. But it wasn't just for Cameron, it was other students too that they just overlook. And so I want to give a call to action to tell administrators to train your staff, because if I didn't threaten to sue that district, what they did then is they made it mandatory that all their teachers go through training to learn how to deal with ADHD.
Yes.
And I had to use that. I sit on these boards, and on my board, I even have a news member that's on the news every day. And I would be at that school so quick. And I got calls at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock from the ISD saying, what can we do? How can we fix this? And so it shouldn't take that to get action, but that's what it took. And I was willing to stand in the gap for whoever, and I'm still willing to stand in the gap and do the same thing.
Well,
Man.
so when I understand just from what she said, because God says that He's given us authority and He's given us dominion. Who enforces, like laws? Someone that's in authority.
Yep.
So God has given you the authority to go into the school so that there are certain laws created. Okay.
Yeah.
I just find that, and this is what I love about God, and this is what I love about people. Don't want to talk about, we are people, our lives are messy. People don't want to talk about this, as we've said, the embarrassment, the shame. But it's a testimony.
It's a testimony.
We are overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And it gives glory to our God, because this is not your strength. I don't care what nobody say. This is not human strength to be able to do. And people don't know your complete story. That's why it has to be a part 2. But just in what you've said, it's weighty. It's a lot. And it's like, well, that's supernatural.
Yeah.
Somebody had to put some super on your natural, and it was not you. And there's no way. There's no way. Even now, you said earlier, you take your son to school, and you go to in Prairie View, and then you pick him back up on the weekends so he can go to work.
Yep.
You have Promise. How old is Promise?
Promise is 8. She'll be 9 soon.
Okay, that's what I said, because her and Kason are pretty much the same age. That's my grandson, and so you're working.
Oh, yeah.
You're taking care of your daughter. She has extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
I see you on social. You're doing a lot. That's not just of your natural self. And I love that, because it does show me, God, I see you. And it allows us to give our God glory. And that's what this is all about. Yes, it's very encouraging. So for people that are lazy, you see what I'm saying? People are talking about, I don't want to deal with it. Okay, don't deal with it.
Right.
But what we're talking about, even your mental health will go down the drain.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I have a therapist.
I was about to say, so speaking of that, so how do you maintain?
Dr. Davenport, I think it's like a medical checkup, your annuals and stuff, but therapists should be more often than that. But I remember Dr. Davenport, and it broke me to tears. He talked about me. He said, what I see with you is that the plane is crashing, and you're supposed to reach for your mask and stuff to cover yourself, protect yourself, to survive. He said, the way that you operate, you don't reach for anything to protect you. You reach everywhere else to cover people.
Right.
And so that part, I was like, I'm kind of okay with that one. But then he said, and I mean that with your kids too. And when he said that, I cried like a baby.
Yeah.
Because as a mother, you can't even see having to disconnect. I'm sorry for crying.
No,
but
I always cry.
even now I still cry. As a mother, those are my children. They're my seed, and I'm all they have. I know God has them, and God reminds me all the time that I loan them to you. But for a therapist to tell me to put the mask on yourself, that was eye opening.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize I was operating in a mode where I never put myself first.
Yeah.
And so now when you see me doing things and different things, it's me taking a chance to put myself first, to do self-care, because if I don't do that, I'll have to crash and burn and I can't take care of them. So the health changes. People say you're losing weight and different things. And I'm like, it's so I can be here for my children. You know, so it's so that I can have peace. Because there's been days where I've had to lay in the bed and I tell the kids, like, today, mommy can't move. And I've just watched movies in the bed and this and that, because I've had those tap out days.
Yeah.
You will tap out.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thankful that I got at an older age introduced to therapy, and it's a neutral person that I can talk to and talk through some of these things, not just home related, ADHD related, work related, relationship related, but you need to
You
have that
relate.
outlet.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody telling me just what they want to just say sounds good. Tell me the truth. If it hurts, I'll take that, I'll absorb it. I'll take pieces of that and I'll apply it, because a lot of times we have to look in the mirror and see where we need to make those changes. So
Correct.
I do, I'm an advocate for it. I've tried to get my son into therapy and he agreed and then said he didn't want to go. And then at one point we had to go to therapy. And that's where I learned that it's just, I had to learn how to work with a child with ADHD. It's not your fault. It's nothing wrong with
Right.
them. Their brain just operates different, and I had to learn to understand it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
you said a
That's
mouthful
good.
there
You
because you
did.
said, "Tell me the truth. I can handle it." And you basically summed up why we started this podcast,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Love and Truth
Love and truth.
podcast,
Yeah.
because we love each other enough to give each other the truth,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So that we both can grow and heal. Um, and then you also mentioned about the mask, because it sounds selfish,
It does.
right? But if you think about it, it's I need to be okay so that I can continue to take care of
Other
them.
people.
Or the
And if I let
assignment.
myself, the assignment, if I let myself go and I'm oxygen is dropping and
Yeah.
they don't know what to do, I know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I ain't got no oxygen left. I can't, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
so I think that is beautiful. So if I remember correctly, something happened in 2020
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that was really, really devastating, or around there about. Kind of what
Traumatic.
what what happened, and tell us about that a little bit.
So 2020 during COVID, my daughter almost passed.
Okay.
And so, that was COVID time.
Yeah.
People can't visit the hospital room. So I remember being at work and I got the phone call from the daycare that she was like going in and out and non responsive. And so I took my computer, because again, I always had to work. And I'm like, if I don't work, I can't provide. So I have the computer, I hop in the car, I run to get her, and she's just going in and out. So as I'm driving the whole time, I'm just reaching back and I'm holding her and just saying, stay with me, stay with me. I get to the emergency room, no parking spots. I didn't even think to pull it to the front, but grab the laptop, grab her. I'm running, and she felt like a ton of bricks. So when you say supernatural,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I carried her, the purse, the laptop, or none of that. I ran into the hospital room and I got to the floor, and I remember just dropping.
Yeah.
And then they just called cold blue, and people came from every direction under the sun, and I could just sit there cry. But all I knew to do was to pray,
Yeah.
and she wasn't responsive. And so we were there. They seen her. They put us in the ambulance and took us out to the Woodlands Hospital. And when we got there again, they were doing every test. It wasn't COVID. It wasn't anything she drank. Nothing that she ate. And these, I mean, I'm talking about the heads. Heads are coming in saying, "What is going on with her? We can't figure it out." So it came to the point where they said, "We need you to sign paperwork to take over her breathing for her." And that was a moment where I've seen God work miracles for me
Yeah.
and other people, because growing up Kojic, you see all types of miracles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I really watched her go from lifeless to putting us in another ambulance, having a panic attack on the way where I'm about to be in the hospital myself, to downtown, to being there. And in the elevator, I remember her body, we were in the elevator and her body did a jump. And I just was like, oh, thank God she's alive. But no, whatever it was, it's some type of reaction she just had, and she had a movement. So for like 3 days we were there. 2 of those days, she just was laying there. They had every neurologist. You had how these lights are bright, bright lights, and about a team of about 20 people standing around, and me. And I'm like, so overwhelmed. I need my parents to get here. Her father did come, and that was a task to get him to come. And so I really just didn't have time to think about none of that.
Right.
But I needed my parents. And because I'm so strong, I'm thankful for I call her my sister, but she's my friend. She reached out to my parents and she said, I need you all to get here now. Because if you know me, I'm going to always say, I'm good, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
But she knew in that moment that they needed to get here. So when they got there, the hospital was like, well, you can't have any guests back, whatever. And I remember crying and going off on the whole security. Whoever you are, I do apologize because I went smooth off. And I'm like, my parents are coming to the back. And so they sat even there and she still was non responsive. And then all of a sudden, she just opened her eye. I mean, when I say day and night of laying there,
How many days was this?
ooh, that was 3 days of just non responsive. And then I think we had another 2 days in the hospital still just trying to figure out. Until this day, they still have zero clue what happened to her. They'd be like, "Can we see Promise? You when you came in and had fell on the floor, we were around when they called Code Blue, but I didn't know who anybody was. I didn't see anybody, and so they're like, we looked at her charts and nothing's in there, so they don't know. She is a walking miracle, and Promise was a blessing that was needed, even to soften her brother and I. When I say us both, because of the ADHD, we had some hard points. We had moments where it wasn't always just love, love. I don't like you today, this and that. I hate you. We had all of that. It's not always pretty.
Right.
And
right.
I take full ownership. And so when she came along, she softened the sides for both of us. And then God reminded me when I was pregnant, when I lost the child, he showed me that it was a girl. And when Promise came, he said her name will be Promise. And that's how her name came about because he said, your promise is to tithe, to be in your word, and to serve. So even when I try to fall off or get tired or whatever goes on, Promise will come and be like, Mama, we missed church 2 Sundays. Or Mama this. Or when Bobo's had Bobo's Cameron, we call him Bobo. When he's at his episodes, it's days I didn't have the strength to pray. That little girl would come down and she would pray the house down like she's a
Come
whole
on,
adult.
Promise.
And she just would go through prayer and she had no clue. Like, I didn't even have the strength to pray that night. I'm just so tired and so hot. Dang near ready to kill him. And it's like, it was days that I needed some help and I needed somebody to give me a relief. And because I'm so strong, because I have to be, they didn't even recognize it. My parents didn't recognize it. I remember saying, you better come get him before I kill him. And they was like, we'll try to get that in about a week. And I'm thinking, no, I'm about to kill him now.
Right.
You know,
So I need you
now
today.
they didn't get it because when you're a strong person, people don't know that you get weak too. And so, everybody calls. Every friend refers their friends to me because I'm the ADHD expert. And so it's like random people call and they're just like, I'm going through this. My child's in a mental hospital and this and that. And so I found myself kind of taking on that hat
Yeah.
Yeah.
unknowingly, but it's necessary. And so even when I'm tired, because I know the feeling, I try to still pick up that call, answer the Facebook message, all that different stuff. So yeah, it's a calling.
Oh my
So
God. This is such a
it,
blessing.
it,
So,
it is, and I want to say this because you said something, and I was quickened when you said it, and you said because I am strong, and everybody knows me as the strong one. Something that the Holy Spirit taught me in my prayer time, and it was this: the scripture says this: when you're weak,
I am strong.
I'm strong, and He makes us strong, right?
Yeah.
I adopted this. I don't ever want to be strong another day in my life. You know why? Because when I'm weak, if I'm weak, that means He's gonna show up and stand
Okay.
up in me. So I don't
good.
have to do all of that.
Yeah.
Because as Black women,
Yes.
we are taught, no, you need to be strong, you need to do this. So when do I get an opportunity to be weak?
That's
Because now I'm in direct opposition of what God tells me I can do.
Yeah.
And then what people are telling me, no, you got to always be strong. And this is why oftentimes our men, and not so much now, I think most of us have gotten away from it, but we taught our the older generation, be quiet, the little
Yeah.
boys, don't cry. So now when we meet these older men, they're unavailable because emotionally unavailable because they were taught not to use their emotions.
Yeah.
So how do we expect for that? You see what I'm saying?
yeah.
So we've been taught so many things, and you said this word earlier. I've had to unlearn some things.
Unlearn. Yeah.
I've been saved since 1999. I promise you, just in 2025, I have seen some things in scripture that I'm like, God, that's what you were saying? Well,
Right.
I've read this over and over.
Revelation comes later.
Okay.
It does.
So I don't want to be, and this is my word to, women, men and women. Being strong is not always the thing you want to do.
Right.
If you want the Lord to come and help, if you want the Holy Spirit, the helper, to help you, I would suggest you fall back in your weakness and say, Lord, I have mercy on me. I am fragile and I am weak. And then watch and see what He does, because that's what I have seen, and you didn't have anybody, so you just had God.
Yeah.
And you had the best because he never left you. He never forsake you. He never did any of that. Like he said.
Yeah.
So when nobody was there, he's like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And we see that.
Yeah.
Like we really see that.
Yeah. We do it together. We definitely do it together. And I remember when I did the investment properties and they failed. And God had to remind me because, I had this whole plan of like, I'm going to buy the houses. When I have kids, I'll have the van or the SUV for the kids and be a sports mom. And I'm a planner. And God had to shake my whole world up and say, you're not planning nothing. So I had 3 houses by the age of, I think I was maybe 22. I already had 3 houses. And I was like, I'm going to build this portfolio and go to commercial investments. And God, when I say he shook it up, he shook it up. But I own houses and I had a fear of like living in one. That was my force to move into one. It was such a mess and they scammed me that I had to move in and I had to build it and fix it from the ground up. And I had to deal with that situation. So one thing I've learned is don't mess with God and just follow his plan. So now I'd be like, what's the plan, Lord? What you want me to do? I don't try to just step out, but I'm thankful for even that situation there too, because I learned a lot. And now I know how to stand strong and how to make sure that I'm involved in every aspect of my business. So yeah.
Yeah, both of you just shared about being um, when we're weak, God shows Himself
Yes.
Oh
kind
yes.
of strong. And so I was in a men's study group for about 8 weeks, and the whole premise was around the blessing and brokenness. And what we talked about was vulnerability. And so you got to be vulnerable. That doesn't mean that you're weak,
It does
Yeah.
not.
right?
That's right.
It just means that you are trusting in something
Yes.
higher than you,
Right.
and you're willing to just, Lord, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know what to do in this situation. Help me. And so I applaud, and black women get that stigma that you got to be a strong black woman, but no other culture puts that on their women.
No. No.
No other culture. I don't have to name them
No.
all, but there's no other culture
Nope.
That's true.
that says you got to be a strong white woman. I'm naming
Right.
them. I said,
No,
I'm
name
like,
them. Name
you have to be
a strong Asian
Asian
woman.
woman. Yeah.
You don't hear that.
Nope.
No.
And so that's the deception
Yeah.
and what keeps us so divided in many cases. So let me recap something
Okay.
here, right? So single mother, 2 beautiful kids, Promise,
Thank
met
you.
Cameron and Earth, just beautiful
Yes,
kids.
they are.
And I love just the name,
Yeah.
Me.
right? The
Promise.
meaning
Yeah.
behind that. So just sweet. Um, navigating through your son's early diagnosis, you guys authored a book together to help other parents navigate through ADHD, ODD, and then what are strategies? What are some of the things you can put into play, right? Um, domestic abuse survivor,
Yeah.
right? The relationship got a little dicey, because again, you're talking about, because you said it earlier, elementary, middle school,
Yeah.
high
High
school,
Woo.
now college. Those are different
Yeah.
phases.
They all need a book.
They all need a book,
Right.
right? Different levels to this.
Yeah.
A near-death experience with your daughter.
Yes.
After losing, I heard you say you lost a
A
child.
child.
Yeah.
So
Before I lost. the
before,
child.
I'm saying
Yeah.
before you lost
Yeah.
a child, and then a near death, all while building this amazing career.
Yeah.
I just want to applaud you,
Thank
Yes.
and particularly in a male-dominated industry,
Thank you.
thriving, not just surviving, but thriving. And so I just want to applaud you
Yeah.
Thank you.
for the work, for allowing God to, use you to go on different platforms to raise awareness. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so this is a timely topic. And so I just want to say thank you for being the woman that you are.
Yeah.
And the first time we've met, my wife has
Yeah.
talked about you all the time, but we've never met. So I just want to say thank you
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
keep doing an amazing job.
Yes.
That's all I got. I'm in awe.
Well, you have something that you wanted to
I
read.
do. Yeah.
And I
Yes.
want you to,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
James has me up here tearing up again.
That's okay.
I'm
Tear
supposed to be up here
Tear
not
up.
tearing up, but
Tear up.
I ain't did
Of
my
course.
job if you ain't crying.
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to just write a letter to my son, but I wanted to also say thank you to a few people. Let me see where I put that at. So, give me a moment. I think it's important to give people their flowers. So,
Yes, it
you know
is.
what? I'm going to go straight to his letter for time's sake. So, I want to just say to Cameron that we've had our moments while navigating life with ADHD, but I want you to know that I forgive you and I also forgive myself that I've always loved you through every high and through every low, and that that nothing life throws our way will ever change that. Every morning that I wake up, I'm grateful just for life, health, and especially the chance to be here for you and your sister. My recent health choices are strictly to be strong and be present for you and your sister. I want you to know that I see you, to hear that you're serving in the community, and I didn't tell him to do that, to see him in a male mentor program at Prairie View. I see you, and I appreciate you. And like you say, you train up a child, and sometimes you don't see that. But I want to just know that I am so proud of you. I see your growth. I see your maturity. I see the man that you're becoming. You are intelligent. You're gifted. And yes, you are Mr. Knows Everybody because Cameron knows everybody. And for the girls, y'all leave my son alone because the ladies do love him. But I wanted you to know that the sky is truly the limit. I will always be in your corner, front row, cheering you on every step of the way. And you have to know your word. Son, keep a scripture in your heart as your sword. And when I say sword, I mean when situations come and approach you, you have to fight with the scripture. And that's something even at this age I'm having to learn. So just know that all things are possible with God. And also know, I know your favorite scripture too is that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, right? So just know that I love you. I'm proud of you. I see what you're doing. We all see what you're doing. And just, I'm not perfect. And it's going to be some days that still will not be right and I won't make the right decisions. And I know I've done things right, wrong, but I appreciate you working with me and we're still in this together. So that's all I want to say.
Listen, just here. So, man, it's a rough time right now. A beautiful rough time. Woo. I'm normally the only one on here, crying. But with that being said, we want to thank this phenomenal woman for coming on here and sharing a real straw story.
Thank you.
We want to really give our God, God, thank
All
you
the
for
All the praise.
all of it because we can see what you do when we allow you the space. And the Holy Spirit, thank you for being our helper. Now, in closing, don't forget to follow us on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. And as always, don't forget to walk in love, seek out the truth so that you can be set free. Until next time, peace.